Picture this. It's 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're staring at your laptop screen, and that important project is just sitting there. You know you need to do it. You want to do it. But somehow, you're scrolling through social media instead, feeling that familiar wave of procrastination wash over you. Sound familiar? What if I told you that the secret to breaking this cycle isn't willpower? It's understanding the hidden chemistry of motivation happening inside your brain right now. Here's something that might blow your mind. Motivation isn't about feeling good when you get what you want. It's about wanting it in the first place. And that craving, that drive, that burning desire to pursue your goals, that's all thanks to a single molecule called dopamine. But here's where it gets interesting. Dopamine isn't actually the pleasure chemical. That's the biggest misconception out there. Dopamine is the anticipation chemical. It's what makes you want that coffee before you taste it. What drives you to prepare for that big meeting? What creates that focused intensity when you're chasing something important? Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly motivated? I bet it wasn't when you were already enjoying something. It was when you were excited about getting it, right? So where does this magical motivation molecule do its work? Your brain has what I like to call the motivation highway, a complex network of regions all working together to turn your desires into action. It starts in your ventral tegmental area, or VTA, which is like the motivation factory in your midbrain. From there, dopamine travels along two main routes. First to your nucleus accumbens, which is your brain's wanting center, and then up to your prefrontal cortex, your planning and decision-making headquarters. But here's what's fascinating. Dopamine doesn't just make you want things. It literally changes how easily you can move toward them. When dopamine levels are high, it's like your brain lowers the threshold for taking action. Everything feels more doable, more achievable. When dopamine is low, even simple tasks feel like climbing Mount Everest. This is why people with Parkinson's disease, who have damaged dopamine neurons, struggle not just with movement, but with motivation itself. Their brains literally can't convert desire into action as easily. Now here's where things get really interesting. Dopamine doesn't work through just one mechanism. It has two main types of receptors, D1 and D2, and they're like the gas pedal and steering wheel of motivation. D1 receptors are your accelerator. They drive reward-seeking behavior and help you learn from positive outcomes. When something good happens, D1 activation makes you want to repeat that behavior. D2 receptors are more like your navigation system. They help you evaluate costs, switch strategies when needed, and learn from negative feedback. But here's the kicker. Both of these can actually enhance motivation when working properly. The old idea that D1 drives approach and D2 drives avoidance. Recent research shows it's way more complex than that. Both receptors can boost your drive when they're balanced correctly. Now you might be wondering, if dopamine is so great for motivation, why can't we just flood our brains with it all the time? Well, your brain is smarter than that. It has what scientists call the pleasure-pain balance. Every time you experience intense pleasure, your brain automatically triggers a compensatory response to bring things back to equilibrium. It's like a neurochemical seesaw. The higher the pleasure peak, the deeper the subsequent dip. This is why that incredible high from achieving a goal often comes with a crash afterward. Understanding this balance is crucial because it explains why some people get trapped in cycles of addiction or burnout, constantly chasing higher and higher dopamine hits just to feel normal. Speaking of addiction, let me tell you how clever your brain's reward system really is, and how certain substances and behaviors can completely hijack it. Addictive substances like cocaine, nicotine, or even behaviors like gambling work by creating massive dopamine surges that are way beyond what nature intended. It's like going from a gentle stream to a fire hose. These substances don't just increase dopamine, they flood your system with 10 times the normal amount. Over time, your brain adapts by becoming less sensitive to dopamine. Now, you need more and more stimulation just to feel normal, while natural rewards, like accomplishing work tasks or spending time with friends, barely register. You've essentially raised the bar so high that normal life can't compete. But here's the fascinating part. Even when the pleasure disappears, the wanting remains. This is why people can continue craving something that no longer makes them feel good. The dopamine response shifts from the reward itself to the cues that predict it. The sight of a casino, the notification sound on your phone, the ritual of preparing the substance. This brings us to something we all deal with: procrastination. But not all procrastination is created equal, and understanding the difference can change everything. Are you the type who procrastinates because tasks feel boring and unrewarding? You're probably dealing with dopamine deficits. Your brain isn't getting enough stimulation to engage motivation circuits. You need more novelty, challenge, and reward to activate your drive. Or are you the type who procrastinates because tasks feel overwhelming and anxiety-provoking? That's more about stress responses overwhelming your motivation system. High levels of stress hormones like epinephrine can actually interfere with dopamine's ability to drive goal-directed action. The treatment for these two types is completely different. The first needs more stimulation and reward. The second needs stress reduction and emotional regulation. But dopamine doesn't work alone. It's constantly interacting with other brain chemicals in a delicate dance that determines your motivational state. Serotonin acts like dopamine's wise older sibling. While dopamine says, "Go get it now," serotonin whispers, "Maybe wait and think about this." This push-pull dynamic is what prevents us from being complete reward-seeking machines while still maintaining the drive to pursue important goals. Endocannabinoids, your brain's natural cannabis-like chemicals, typically work with dopamine to enhance motivation and reward processing. And stress hormones like epinephrine, they provide the physical energy to act on dopamine-driven desires, but too much stress can overwhelm the whole system. So how do we optimize this complex system? The secret lies in something called dopamine scheduling. And the most powerful tool in this toolkit is intermittent reinforcement. You know how addictive checking your phone notifications can be. That's intermittent reinforcement in action. You never know when you'll get a rewarding message, so your brain keeps releasing dopamine in anticipation. The unpredictability actually makes it more motivating than getting rewards every single time. Smart people use this principle intentionally. Instead of rewarding yourself after every small task, create unpredictable rewards. Sometimes celebrate finishing a chapter, sometimes celebrate finishing a whole section. The uncertainty keeps your dopamine system engaged and sensitive. Break big projects into smaller milestones. Each completion triggers a mini dopamine hit. Introduce novelty and challenge to prevent your brain from adapting and getting bored. And critically, balance periods of stimulation with recovery time to prevent dopamine depletion. But here's what makes this really fascinating. We're all wired differently. Your genetic makeup, personality traits, and life experiences have shaped your dopamine system in unique ways. Some people are natural sensation seekers with highly active dopamine systems. They need constant novelty and challenge to feel motivated. Others have more sensitive systems that can be overwhelmed by too much stimulation. Some struggle with anxiety that interferes with dopamine signaling, while others battle depression that dampens the whole reward system. This is why cookie-cutter motivation advice often fails. Understanding your personal neurochemical profile, whether through self-observation or emerging technologies, can help you design motivation strategies that actually work for your brain. We're standing on the brink of a revolution in motivation science. Researchers are developing novel dopamine transport inhibitors that boost motivation without the addiction risk of traditional stimulants. They're using closed-loop brain stimulation to precisely modulate motivation circuits in real time. They're even exploring how to use our understanding of belief and expectation to naturally enhance dopamine release. Imagine having a personalized motivation profile that tells you exactly how to structure your day, when to introduce challenges, how to reward yourself, and how to recover, all based on your unique brain chemistry. But you don't need to wait for the future to start optimizing your motivation today. Here's what the science tells us works. For the dopamine-deficit procrastinators, try cold exposure to trigger natural dopamine surges. Engage in high-intensity exercise, seek novelty and challenges, break tasks into smaller, achievable goals, and yes, consider a strategic dopamine detox from overstimulating activities. For the stress-overwhelmed procrastinators, focus on breathwork and stress reduction. Practice mindfulness to interrupt avoidance patterns. Modify your environment to reduce anxiety triggers. Use aromatherapy and nature exposure to calm your nervous system. For everyone, remember that motivation follows action, not the other way around. Sometimes you need to start moving before the dopamine kicks in. And this brings us full circle to that moment at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, staring at your laptop screen. Now you understand what's really happening in your brain. Those social media scrolls, they're triggering intermittent dopamine hits that compete with your work tasks. That overwhelming feeling. It might be stress hormones interfering with your motivation circuits. But armed with this knowledge, you can make different choices. You can recognize whether you need stimulation or stress reduction. You can design your environment and schedule to work with your dopamine system, not against it. The next time you feel that familiar procrastination creeping in, ask yourself, what does my brain actually need right now? More reward and stimulation, or more calm and regulation? Because motivation isn't a character flaw or a willpower problem. It's a chemistry problem. And chemistry problems have chemistry solutions. Your brain is incredibly adaptable, constantly rewiring itself based on your experiences and choices. Every time you choose to align your behavior with your dopamine system's natural patterns, you're literally reshaping your neural circuits to support better motivation in the future. So the question isn't whether you can become more motivated. It's whether you're ready to work with your brain instead of against it. The science is clear. Optimal motivation isn't about pushing harder. It's about understanding the elegant neurochemical symphony playing in your head and learning to conduct it masterfully. What will you do with this knowledge?